This is Motovation. I'm Lori Joy Kingwell.
And I'm Krissy Van. We're two dreamers on two wheels inspired by our community.
And celebrating the voices we're just lucky enough to discover along the ride. So if not already, like, subscribe, follow along, do what you gotta do to not miss an episode.
Well, so stoked because we have Kim back on the podcast today, and even more excited because over the last couple of months, we both have personally witnessed you go from dream to action taking to what will soon be a reality. And I think, as we've talked on the podcast many times, dreams often become just that, a dream. That action taking is a huge step. It's not easy, but you have a strong why attached to what you're bringing to life. And if you don't know what we're talking about, we have shared it on our Instagram many times. We will continue to do so. And of course, Lori and I are so excited because we have our tickets for the Women's Moto Summit. This is going to be the first annual, and I say it that way because I am sure this is going to be a smashing success. And the thing is, you're offering something that personally I've not seen within the community. And so this is just going to be incredibly special. And I see the tears, and I know it's because there's such a big mission behind this as well, and big meaning. So talk to me about what the Women's Moto Summit is and where this dream began.
Funny enough, my journey from only wanting to ride as a solo rider to actually opening up, started when I would go to Babes Ride Out, and you'd ride out there with one person that you just met or by yourself. And then you would just meet, a specific group of women or a bunch of different groups of women and be like, wow, those guys are amazing. And then you would keep in touch, and eventually you would go out and meet and ride again. But that's where all of my friend groups, that's how I met Jess and Red and my Salt Lake City crew. And, I have my Seattle crew. And it's just these motorcycle events. And they've always kind of meant a lot. And I found, the more that I've been going to them, they've either gotten so big that they've kind of lost that intimacy aspect, or, you find a lot of people can't really camp as much. The music goes too loud. And also there's, quite a few of us that don't drink anymore, or, you know what I mean? Don't like to have that be the primary aspect of a lot of these events. So there was just a lot of things that I was like, man, I would love to do something that was kind of more focused on the connection side of things. And then the other side of that is, of course, I love cold plunging, and I have, a cold plunge crew that we go out and jump in the ocean in the middle of winter, like crazy cats. And it's just a whole nother community that's just absolutely amazing. So, my dream has always been to, if I can create an opportunity to kind of bring those two groups together and have the moto community also kind of focus on wellness as well. But of course, throwing an event is ridiculous. It's a lot of work, and it's not something that I ever thought I would do. It's something that I thought maybe I would come up with an idea and then get an event planner to come in and kind of do it. But it's funny that you talked about dreams and make them a reality. I had a dream, this crazy vivid dream one night, and it was my mom with her horses. And I remember her talking about them at one point when she was younger. It was whether she was with her sister or something like that. And she was talking about having these horses and how much they meant to her. So I woke up and I was like, why am I having these crazy vivid dreams about my mom and these horses? I messaged my aunt that I haven't talked to in quite some years just to say, hey, was there a name to those horses? Is there a background story? I don't know why I'm having dreams about it. And that day I ended up going to Squamish, and I went to Fergie's Cafe to go have some lunch. And on my way out, when I was leaving, directly across was, Chikai Ranch, and they had horses on their display on their logo. So I was like, I gotta go in there. So essentially I just, I went in and I said, hey, do you guys actually offer horseback riding? In my head at the time, I thought maybe this is something that I need to do with my friends. Maybe it's something that's hey girls, let's get on our bikes. We'll ride to Squamish. We'll ride horses together. How cool would that be? They actually rescue and rehabilitate horses that were meant for slaughter. And they've been doing it for years, and have rescued hundreds of horses. And they actually don't do rides anymore, but it's a good thing because they don't do rides because they've actually become so well known that by the time these horses get rehabilitated and in the state that they're able to be ridden, they get adopted out right away, which is awesome. But she's like, there is a place up the street that you can go. And then I kind of turned around and glanced over, and I was like, wait a second. I saw a glimmer of something being set up around the corner. And I was like, do you guys do events here? And she goes, yeah, we have 70 acres of property, and we rent out the back 3 acres. Somebody's just setting up a wedding right now. And I was like, do you mind if I go in? So I walked in there, and it was just something just, I don't know if it was like the sun hitting the trees or that eagle flying above or something that came around the corner. And I was like, oh, this is it. Like this needs to happen, and it's just riverside and it's stunning. And, there's a sauna there. And so essentially I just came home, and I think Lori read, this was kind of around the time with, there was something else that had come up with your aunt, and just one of those situations that was getting pretty heated. And in that moment, it was just, you just have that life's too short going on in your head over and over again, and it is, I think when you get those signs, no matter what it's pointing you to do, you really just got to take it and run with it. Like there's no way that these signs would have come in and things would have happened the way they are unless somebody's telling me like, you got to make this happen. So I basically said, like, I don't want to just give me the price, just, give it to me straight. I need to know that if this is absolutely feasible, or if I'm crazy, because I've actually got really excited over, properties before. And they're like, yeah, it's $140,000 for the weekend. I'm like, excellent. Okay. I'll call you.
And smash.
We worked it out, and it ended up being something that seemed to be, quite feasible. And, with my reach within the community, it's kind of neat because I have incredible musicians that I know, and, naturopaths and massage therapists, and, like even within our crew, those are, all the women that we know. So I just kind of started reaching out to people and telling them idea, and everybody that I talked to was just so over the moon excited about what the message behind it and what we wanted to kind of do. So essentially that's kind of how everything started.
What are kind of the like experiences that you envision when you envision people kind of walking away after this? What are some of the things that you hope that they kind of take away, embody within it, have the experience of?
I really hope that they try something new and they do something that pushes themselves out of their comfort zone. So whether that's, jumping into the ice cold river and doing, the cold plunges and trying out some breath work, or whether that's just like sitting down fireside with a stranger and opening up to them. I want this to be about connection, and I want this to be about just getting yourself out of your comfort zone, essentially. I have somebody coming in to do cold exposure and breath work. I have somebody coming in to facilitate yoga and meditation. There's a woman coming in that's doing sound bowls. So those will be there, and you can attend all or none, and it really doesn't matter. But, we wake up in the morning and we'll have breakfast burritos there that come from Little Chef, which is my favorite little bistro in Squamish. We'll have some fresh hot coffee, so you're not lining up and having to pay for anything. The coffee and breakfast burritos are there. And then you can just bring a mat or a towel or a blanket or nothing. We're just go on the grass, and we'll have facilitators there kind of doing these classes, so you can kind of jump into them and try them out. And then in the afternoon, like food trucks will be on site, and we're just going to be essentially playing games. We're going to be playing flip cup and capture the flag and just different things. But the whole premise is to, take the long way in and take the Sunday and Monday to ride your heart out. But when you arrive on site, we'll have everything you need. So just stay there and get comfortable and, start connecting with people, start making friends. During the day, you can rent a dirt bike. We'll have dirt bikes on site that Michelle will take you out. And whether you're brand new and haven't ridden before, or whether you just want to kind of take it and hit the track behind there, you can do that. There's a sauna that's on site, a Finnish sauna. We'll have the, of course, registered massage therapist there, and they both have yurts, and they'll be doing massages right on their own decks. There'll be a tattoo artist. There's a woman doing astrology, and then there's another woman doing tarot readings and Reiki. But yeah, so she's going to kind of pair those two together. She'll do your tarot reading, and then she kind of does the Reiki session based on the cards that you were dealt. And then, of course, I've connected with Squamish River Horse Adventures, who are going to be doing the tours. So they have 6 horses, and you can book 1 or 2 hours, and they'll take you through all the old growth forests that are back there, and a bunch of river crossing and things like that. So it'll be pretty special.
Well, and I think when you speak to this event coming together and you talk about going from solo rider to community and that entire experience, I feel like what you're cultivating is also a metaphor for what we all experience coming into this community ourselves. Everyone kind of remembers coming into a group ride the first time and the nerves or the fear that's associated with that. And then what you receive on the other side of that, if you're open to it, I know it's changed all of our lives in this conversation, and I'm sure many people that are listening as well. My life is not the same from several years ago to what it is now. And the thing is because this community pushes you to grow. They'll call you on your shit in the kindest way when I say that. It's like they'll call you if you're being inauthentic to yourself, they won't allow that. And it's because there's so much love in that space. And so I think when we all come together knowing the tone that we're all going to be received into, I think there's going to be magic. Like it actually gives me goosebumps when I think about it, because what you're putting on offer at the end of the day is going to attract people that are seeking to create that and coming in with a willingness and an openness. So what you envision in your mind now, I imagine you're going to have to add an exponent to that of what you'll get back through it. And I'm so excited for those moments where you get to stand there and look around and absorb and just be enveloped by the energy that happens there, because it's going to be vibrationally so high. And it's going to make everything you're going through now worth it. Because I know when there is an idea that you want to bring to life, no matter how attached to your why and how much belief you have in it, it's scary when you actually put it out there. So talk to me how you felt the day you went live with the site and you're like, oh my God, this is happening.
Well, there's kind of two sides of that, because the one thing is I did really want to make sure that this is like, yes, this is a moto event and I really want to put it out to my moto community, but you don't have to ride to come out to the event. And essentially there's a lower parking lot that all the cars and bikes will be parked in. So nobody can even tell whether you're on a bike or a car. So like, just come out. Like there's so many people that look and they're like, I am so envious of your moto community, but motorcycles just aren't for me. You know, and this is kind of giving those people a chance to be like, come and spend time with the community without having to be on a bike. And, you know, it's bringing us together, but it really has nothing to do with bikes at the end of the day. The one thing that I was really kind of thinking of is when I was initially going live is the wellness aspect, which is really amazing, like how much it's kind of blown up, and especially with like the cold exposure and the breath work and things like that. And they're not cheap to go to those events too. Like you can pay $100 just to like go to a sauna, or you can, you know, and or $125 to do like a spin class in a sauna and things like that. So I knew that I could put it out to my wellness community and probably sell out in a second, because the tickets, like the early bird tickets right now are $195 for the weekend. And that's not something I wanted. I didn't want to put it out there and sell it out. I wanted it to be truly word of mouth. I wanted it for people to, you know, have the capability to come and join the event, and not for me to be like, it's sold out. Sorry. Like I wanted to keep the event quite curated. So there will only be 280 women there, and that's it. But yeah, going live was also, and of course, this is the first time I've created a website too, right? So I was, you know, tried to look up the most user-friendly website and go into a bunch of things. We do have a friend of ours. It was actually, I was looking into one of our registered massage therapists, and I was looking on her website and just looking up more about her. And then I noticed on the bottom, it said that her website was created by Tora, and Tora is another woman who rides with us. And so I reached out to her saying like, hey, I've never done this before. And she goes, don't worry, let's meet for lunch and we'll get you on there. So when she got a look-see over it, she just got so excited about it and just pumped me up even more. So the day before I went live, I had her, you know, just being like, this is going to be amazing. And she was just so excited about it. And like, when can I start telling people? And
for the record, she's my neighbor, and I ran into her in the hallway shortly around this period. And she was like, oh my God, like the excitement was palpable. She's like, are you going? I was like, of course I'm going.
Oh, really? Oh, that's so cute. It's just so special when you're like, you know, it's a great idea in your head. It's a great idea in theory, but when you actually like put it out there and people are like, yes. And you're like, okay, you know, you just get that. But yeah, so it was obviously nerve-wracking going out there, but then at the same time too, I hadn't had any lead up to it other than like my close friends that knew what I was doing. Like nobody really had any idea what was happening. So, and I wanted it that way. And since then it still has just been kind of word of mouth, but the people that are getting tickets are really, really, really excited about it. And I think it's going to keep the crowd to be exactly what we want it to be and exactly what we anticipate. So
I see like it's this like perfect of the two worlds. There's that part of ourselves that are stepping into, you know, a lot of women, especially in our 30s and now coming into our 40s. It's this like well-being, like what does that mean? And unfolding ourselves and looking at the world differently and expanding and all those beautiful things, and being able to share that with one another. And like this podcast, use it to even more so of like make that more expansive to everybody that you can kind of reach, right? And have that commonality. And then it's that other part of the little kid in us that just wants to go play games and just wants to all be together and giggle and have fun and be silly and try new things. And so it's this perfect kind of, and I think that's also why there is that like deep excitement of the idea of it, because it's these two worlds coming together, summer camp and wellness retreat. And I know that just this weekend, I was visiting a close girlfriend of mine that we've been friends since we've been 13 years old. And she was saying just that of like, gosh, it's the thing I just miss the most about kind of not having in my life at this moment is that kind of the community that like us as young girls had. And that she recognizes when I talk about all of you gals is just that of like, that's why there's so much excitement around that, because it's rare that you get that in your adult life where you get to do so many adventures and then do life with this close group of girls. And you really only had that in elementary or high school. And then, it kind of drifts, or college, and then life happens, And I think plugging different opportunities like this into a year, and this being a new one, that why I completely agree with Krissy that this is the first of many to come. And only, you might have to do a couple weekends if you keep it intimate, because it'll start to get busy real quick. But I think it just offers all the beautiful things about where we're at in our lives at this moment, but the beautifulness of tapping into the most innocent and free parts of ourselves that once existed.
Yeah, 100%. It's funny. Those are the first things. I was like walking on this property and they're setting up for a wedding, and I'm looking at the altar and I was like, that is going to be perfect for a tortilla slap competition. And then you walk around the corner and you're like, yeah, this is big enough for Red Rover right here. This will be girl, and the woman that's walking with me is like, sorry, did you just say Red Rover?
She's like, I'm pretty sure that got banned in elementary school.
Oh gosh.
It's so true though, like what you're saying, Lori, as well. And I encounter this a lot. And it's funny, we've all lived in small towns before. So I think, and not to say it's exclusively that mindset, because working in TV, you spend a lot of time on Reddit looking for story ideas. And one of the most common things I see on the Vancouver Reddit thread is it's impossible to make friends here. I've lived here for X number of years and I can't break in, etc. And so there's this yearning, like it severely impacts people when you're this age. And you may have these incredible close friends from your youth, but often they're still incredibly special people and you have a shared bond in history, but they're not necessarily the perfect match for where you're at in your life. They're not necessarily the people that are going to push you or propel growth. And not that you're utilizing your friends to grow you, but I do think that you should have people that see you as a human being in your life now, and you all want to grow together. You don't want to stay stagnant in life. You want to experience life. But often when there's events like this, or the stupid shit we all get up to, and the amount of people that are like, that's not for me though, or we shouldn't be doing that though. And I'm like, that's something you've sold yourself, a mindset that you have sold yourself that is severely limiting your experience of life. And I think that's the part that we understand. And then you'll notice, I mean, think of even when we went to Belize and we had our incredible host, Emma, that's had a million adventures under the sun. But immediately think of the first night and how we all interacted compared to through the week where we're just playing together. And it's like people almost need that permission to remind themselves that it's perfectly okay to play in life. And if you aren't, or you've forgotten what it feels like, it's a part of yourself you actually need to go in and reintroduce yourself to, because I know how I feel when I have those experiences. And then when life and the shit happens, it actually loosens you up to move through it easier. It doesn't make the thing easy, but you can move through it a hell of a lot easier when you have that.
Yeah, absolutely. God, that's so true. Even just the small things of, it's funny because I don't notice it as much with us, but then when you have somebody come in like Emma, who's just kind of standing there and watching us for 8 whole days being like, oh my God, like you guys just broke out into song and started singing, 10 people deep in the middle of a restaurant. We're like, yeah, is that not a thing here? Like,
Why not?
And it's just the most random things, but it's just, you can even tell kind of by the end of it, she was just like, God, like I know that I'll never be able to see this again. And it's unfortunate because it's like, you really can, and those are the moments that we truly, truly, truly live for. Those moments where you're like, I don't care if anybody's listening. I don't care whatever, like, this is what I feel. This is what I want to do. And this brings me joy, and it's a truly amazing feeling.
Weekends like the summit is that opportunity as well for people that, whether you have that community or you don't have that community, putting yourself in a vulnerable space to come out and, like Kim said, try new things and just do something that's out of your comfort zone, which ultimately I hear you saying the bottom line of, I just want people to come in and be vulnerable, share things that maybe they wouldn't normally share because there wasn't a trusted place maybe to do so, or they didn't know what that would look like. But if you're around people that have that in their lives, you're going to be more, even just to vibrationally be around people that thrive so heavily on community. It's going to give you even maybe that little bit of that mirrored effect within yourself where it's like, well, that looks, nice to be open. And maybe that's the benefits. And, or when you go back into real life, you maybe meet people on top of in the summit that you're like, let's carry this on into everyday life. And you build that. But also vibrationally, when you walk out of that weekend, where you're at, how you're feeling, you're going to likely attract more of that, where maybe, it's not so much that it wasn't there as much as you didn't know how to kind of vibrationally bring that in. Because there was parts of ourselves that were closed off that we didn't even know were closed off until we were exposed to people that are so now cracked wide open. Because I think a lot of us in our own way, or at least Kim, you shared yourself. You were like, I wasn't that open to women as groups of friends. I was quite closed. I was more open to having dude friends in groups, but not women. And it was like a slow burn and now you can't organize enough things to have group events. And I'm not just talking about the summit. Like Kim's like, do we want to do this? I've planned a spontaneous karaoke session. Like Kim is like the one that is full throttle. No pun intended with motorcycles.
Love the pun.
But you are, but that's what I'm speaking to really is like, you might have it in your head. And you guys have already just mentioned this of like, it's not for you, or that's not really my thing, or I've tried, it doesn't. But like, even just if you've even had the privilege of going to summer camp as a kid, and how nervous you are, or how much you wonder if you're going to make a friend. And then you walk out and you're pen paling the shit out of 7 little kids after camp's done for the next year. But so quickly when you spend that really condensed time with other people, and people that are there with all the right pure intentions in and around it, even if they're not necessarily there yet with their openness, their intention to be open, magical things happen. And that magic sticks to you as you leave weekends like that. I've never experienced that not happen, whether I've been 8 years old or, in Belize.
Mm-hmm. I think the thing I find most fascinating about this, and you, Kim, is like, because Lori's bang on. I've talked about before people's special features, and that's absolutely one of yours. It's like this cultivator of community. And again, look at the ripple effect when I'm like, it's changed everyone's lives. That's a pretty powerful ripple to put into the world. But you've been in practice of this, which is also amazing considering, as Lori's point, rewind in your life several years, you wouldn't have even had an openness to this. And now you are quite literally the incubator and the cultivator of this, and witnessing the impact in your life. And then to have this enter in your dreams at a time you're so ready to receive that. I don't believe that's a coincidence at all. Like, that's a beautiful divine intervention, because this is exactly what we're speaking to. You could hear, if it was on Eventbrite, let's say, motorcycle event is the tab or the heading, but Women's Moto Summit, like, that's going to be a ripple effect that every single person takes something away, which is exactly, you said, your purpose and your goal. And without a doubt, that's what's going to happen because you're the root. And I don't say that coming from like an egotistical way. I just think your intentions are so pure in that saying that without a doubt, I think that's why it came into your life, to give that to people. And then think of how that changes the rest of their 365, or in our cases, I mean, hell, we're getting a commune.
Yeah.
We've
My
shared
property.
listings.
It's also one of those things too that I don't want people to be scared of it. I don't want people that's like introverted people to come out and to think that there's going to be a bunch of women that are just trying to like pry at them. And I think just coming in with an open heart and open mind, you don't have to do anything. If you don't want to join in on anything, that's fine. But I think there's just going to be a lot of power in just being able to like sit and listen. And even if you're not ready to share, to hear other people share is a pretty beautiful thing. And that alone can really have an impact on you. And share when you're ready. Like, it will hold space, but nobody's going to be poking and prying. Everyone's kind of going to be doing their own thing. And there'll be a lot of different situations that'll kind of set it up to give you the opportunity to do so. But the one thing that I really wanted to do too with like all the facilitators and everybody that was coming in, I really wanted them to be local and really like have their own practices. So sound bowls, for instance, I'm not good at meditation. That's why I like the Moto meditation, but I'm not good at stillness and getting out of my head and things like that. And sound bowl is kind of another way of meditation, but they use the sounds. You can more easily focus on that. And it makes it easier for people who don't really normally meditate to kind of fall into that trance. So that's something I've wanted to try for a really long time. But having all these different things out there, I wanted people to come, and whether they're trying yoga for the first time or sound bowls or cold water exposure, things like that. I wanted them to be able to still connect with these people when they go home. And all of these people have their own practices and gyms and areas back home. So if you wanted to continue practicing with any of these women after the September 3rd is over, then you absolutely can. And they're all here for it. So they're all coming out basically just to network and connect with all the women, in the same sense that all the members are, or all the guests are. So it's going to be a great one. I'm excited.
Well, and I think that's an important thing to highlight, because I know, especially through your network and your connections, not to say that it would be easy, but you are very connected. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that would want to take part in this event. And I think that it's just been great to see you be so thoughtful in regards to who's coming into the space and really just resonating with that curated experience, and curated in the sense of just knowing what you want people to take on the other side, and hyper local. And the fact, I know a lot of small local owned women's businesses as well has been a focus. So I can't wait to see all the vendors that are set up there, because I know they're there for a reason.
Absolutely. And we haven't really talked about it, but we do have the option, because I was talking about how a lot of people are coming up, and some people just don't like to camp, or some people just have a bad back, or, so there is options to essentially glamp if you want to. There's only 3 yurts left and just a few tents left, but there are yurts that are on site that are built there. There's a few of them that are just riverside. They're wonderful. There's no power or anything, but you get a bed and a side table, and it's all covered, and it's quite nice. You get a nice big deck with a barbecue. And then the canvas yurts are actually from a company called Wildhaven. They're local in Squamish. And they'll actually come in on the Friday and set up these beautiful tents with your bed and the carpets. They just set up this like really beautiful glamping tent for you. So you show up, your name will be on it, and everything will be there for you. So if you did want that, if you're not a big camper, there are options to upgrade if you would like.
Tell people what the website is, how they can get their tickets, but also you'll be able to see photos of this. And I'm sure that those are like you hear glamping, these are show-stopping glamping situations. Those ones that company brings up, they're so beautiful, very boho chic.
Yes, absolutely. I know. I'm always like, can I just decorate my house like this?
Exactly.
Thing. So the website is just womensmotosummit.com. And if you go there, you can buy tickets directly on that website. You can kind of go through. I'll be updating it as kind of people come through, but I put the food trucks on there that are going to be going. Eventually, once we get close to the event, I'll have the menus on there, so you just know what you're walking into. And it talks about the musicians, it talks about the yoga facilitator and cold exposure, but everyone will be on there, and you'll get a little bio of who they are and what they're kind of bringing to the event. And then there's an accommodations link as well, where you can just go in and see the different packages that you can get, the different canvas tents and yurts, and then you can just purchase them right there as well.
Well, I know we always do a motivation maintenance, which I get this one's a little bit of a hybrid episode where we speak to community, but then also this fantastic event happening in our community from someone we love in our community with this incredible ride that you get to go up the sea to sky, which is by far one of the most beautiful places in the world. We've all traveled a lot, and I think still we are taken into a state of awe when you realize how incredibly special that road is. But I think when we talk from a motivation maintenance perspective, we've spoken to people coming in with a level of openness, people embracing that fear and maybe pushing past it to try something new. What would be your biggest advice or practice you would say to people when they walk into that space to be able to open themselves to have that takeaway at the end of the day?
If you show up and you're able to hold space for other women, I think that's the most important thing. So you don't have to show up and have a story to tell or push stuff and make yourself do things. But if you just show up and you're open to people talking to you, you're open to holding space for other women and listening and just being present, I think that'll be the most important thing.
Well, thank you, Kimmy. We can't bloody wait. It's funny because even though it seems like it's a ways away, because it's the first weekend in September, the long weekend, it will come so fast because it is summer. And as we all know, it's like a blink and boom, it's here. And so also what I also have a deep appreciation for is what a perfect way to wrap up a summer, because it's also this time where you kind of gives you time to reflect on all the things that have, the rapid fire events and adventures that one goes on in the summer. And so I can't wait for the entire experience for a gazillion different reasons. And we deeply appreciate that you are putting this on and making this available for so many people, because we need it. We need it. And I sure as hell won't be one planning it. So I'm excited someone is. I am.
Well, and I think I look at that time of year too, at the end of the long weekend. I'm like, that's an unofficial new year every year. Everyone kind of takes stock, does a little check. It's like a life 100%. Audit time. It's a perfect time for that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Also, too, even though like our summers have been going a little longer, during that time where you kind of feel like summer's over and you're getting into winter, like I'm just having a conversation with Annie yesterday where it's, a lot of people have harder months during the winter time. They're not out. They don't get to see their friends a lot. They don't get to ride. And there's certain things that happen. So you really kind of like at that point, you're kind of looking for tools that you can kind of implement in your life and things that you can do to help you throughout the next few months. So I think it's going to be great. The one thing, it is on the long weekend, but we're not going into the Monday. And I did that specifically because it's not a riding event. I do want people to come in and stay put and, just enjoy the weekend with everybody. But then also it ends on Sunday at 11. So then you have all of Sunday, to ride, all of Monday to ride if you want to, or you just have that Monday to really kind of like settle back into your house, do some laundry and kind of start the week off right. So as much as I love these moto adventures and they're great, when you kind of arrive back home and you're back at work the next day, it usually becomes a little disheveled. So it's just nice to kind of have that one day to regroup before you really get back into the work week.
Brilliant. Well, I know we always leave with a quote, which is, again, not really something we necessarily prepared. So I actually pulled one up. If we want to go that route.
Kim's like, yeah, please.
Yeah. Dreams are never just dreams. They are reality waiting to happen. And Lori?
That, my friends,
is amazing.
You've just listened to the Motovation Podcast with your host, Krissy Van, and me, Lori Joy Kingwell.
Thanks for joining us along the ride. We've got new episodes dropping every Monday, and we're all about community. So follow us on Instagram at Motovation Podcast and visit our website at themotovation.com.
And in the meantime, tanks full and full throttle.